Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We begin 50 years after mankind was nearly wiped out by nuclear war. The surviving Americans reorganized into the market while the Soviet Union became the Confederation. Leaders have agreed to stop the traditional open wars and instead settle any disagreements in single combat using giant mechanical warriors. The movie opens in eastern Siberia where the Confederation jockey Alexander has defeated the market champion Hercules. Even after Herc with his broken back surrenders and the fight declared a victory for the Soviets, their boy brings down the mech's foot, crushing his 9th American pilot in a row. From the command center, Commissioner Jameson tells his last and best jockey to get ready as market territory is at stake if they lose another. Achilles is also on a 9-fight win streak and only has 1 fight left on his contract before he gets to retire. His mentor Tex is concerned about him taking on Alexander for control of Alaska despite Achilles being the betting favorite. Their chief engineer Matsumoto says that a spy is to blame for Herc losing as somebody tipped off the Russian about his mech.
Very glad.
If Achilles wins, he'll tie Tex's unbeaten record, so Alexander taunts him over the public broadcast to get inside his head. With no other pilots left alive, the market scientist Laplace has developed a strain of genetically engineered jocks to fill the position. The only test tube baby that gets a name is Athena, who will be the first female jockey, and we needed science to achieve that. She anxiously watches Achilles fight, hoping to find out what makes this ordinary man born of an accident seemingly unbeatable. Once the robot is deployed and Achilles is synced up, he meets his rival in Alaska as portrayed by some desert in California. Matsumoto has installed a new laser into the arm of the market machine, as everything else these guys fire simply gets deflected. Unfortunately, the new tech is also rendered useless by the spy leaking information beforehand, so both sides advance to the next round. These gladiator matches have referees flying around enforcing the rules that our combatants are now no longer allowed to use ranged weapons. It's all for entertainment after all, and during the melee round Alex gets the upper hand, but Achilles comes back by disabling his leg. In his desperation, the Ruski launches a projectile punch, and though still a hand is a violation of these stupid rules, Achilles steps in the way of nearby spectators to save them from the wild attack, but his robot is knocked on top of them. Hundreds of people are crushed to death in the worst disaster since the robot jock's inception, while both mechs are rendered inoperable. The only one happy about it is the Confeds, because the fight is declared a draw and a rematch scheduled for 1 week's time. Since this was the last fight on his contract, Achilles refuses a rematch no matter how many fans turn on him and call him a coward. Jameson tries to bribe him to keep fighting, but squishing 300 people like bubble wrap has given him a whole new perspective on life. The retired Achilles goes to a bar where Tubi's question as to why he would give up his advantage to try to save some random spectators. Alexander enters to gloat about remaining undefeated and cripples some young Tubi's hands when he tries to stand up for the market. Achilles challenges him to a drunken bar fight, but the Russian waits so he can crush the American's replacement on the battlefield. Haunted by nightmares of his last fight, Achilles wakes to find Athena watching over him as she studies his body or something. These Tubies don't have any concept of personal space and have no desires but one to win, but Achilles just chalks up all his victories to being lucky. As determined as Athena's to replace the market champion, Tex says she won't win because she's a woman, but he also calls Matsumoto the Jap. It takes just one moment of her stripping down in the locker rooms for our hero to fall in love with Athena, but not enough for him to stick around. He says goodbye to Tex and goes to live with his brother's family, where we get our first good glimpse of this being post-apocalyptic. Kate is a breeder, as the government encourages the replenishment of the population, mostly because they want more jockeys. Phillip says that they've been receiving prank calls every day to remind them how much of a cowardly traitor his brother is. When news reaches him that Athena was selected to replace him in the rematch, Achilles returns to the market to save the adorable Tubi. She won the right to fight by beating all of her fellow orphans to the top of this rickety playground, but I'm not sure what that proves. Achilles negotiates a contract with the commissioner, but Matsumoto refuses to divulge information about new weapons so that they can't be leaked. He promises to tell on the big day, so Tex confides in Achilles that he believes the Japanese guy is the traitor, citing his race as reason. The jockey's like, nah, that's stupid, while Athena believes that Achilles was using her and only left to negotiate for more money. On the day of the fight, she goes around to Achilles' place and injects him with a sedative so that she can take his place inside the machine. Before he goes down, they have a brief fight in which we get some of the funniest looking poses out of a growing weak Achilles. It dawns on Athena that his real motive for coming back is to save her when he lays a big fat one on the complete stranger. She just knees him in the balls and steals the keys to his robot, as this Tubi was literally born and raised to fight. Meanwhile, Tex confronts Matsumoto in his office and accuses him of being the spy, but it backfires sort of. Matty has analyzed Tex's last victory and deduced that the lucky shot that won him his retirement was deliberately aimed at a weak point they didn't know about. This means that Tex had inside information from the Confeds, so Matsumoto pulls his gun and accuses the national hero of being a traitor. The gun-savvy Texan just disarms him and foolishly reveals everything while being secretly recorded by a hidden camera. He then shoots Maddie in the head and stages it like a cell phone before informing the market leadership that we found our spy. Meanwhile, nobody notices that Achilles has shrunk 2 feet and developed an hourglass figure in his retirement. When random mechanic number 3 notices what nobody else could, Athena kicks everybody out of the cockpit and commandeers the robot. Laplace's entire life work becomes invalidated by Athena's betrayal, but she's just like, "Shut it granny, I got Ruskies to kill." The market is unable to stop her from just climbing out of the hangar, while the referees don't care who pilots the robots, as these are the real savages. Alexander's robot has now got 4 legs to support his frame, since last time losing a single one lost the Confederate his 10th win. Achilles wakes up and races to the command center to show his support for Athena, since they don't really have much choice. They play for her Matsumoto's briefing on the robot's new weaponry, but the footage of Tex's murder is spliced to the end. With the traitor revealed, the commissioner says that he'll see him hanged, but Tex leaps off a balcony to his death, so I guess he showed them, huh? On the battlefield, the robots exchange gunfire until Athena takes the early advantage when using a flash of light to blind her opponent. Alexander recovers and charges, knocking her mech to the ground, so Athena severs an arm off with a bolo saw from her back. None of that matters, as the fight is declared in Alexander's favor when he uses the other arm to jackhammer Athena unconscious in her cockpit. The referees order him to stand down, so the Confederate crushes their little platform and prepares for finishing off his opponent. Achilles arrives on the battlefield and Alex could easily squish them both, but one thing he isn't is a coward and allows his rival to take control. Once Athena gives him a reciprocal kiss and is handed off to doctors, Alex attacks, so Achilles fights his way back to his feet. He then takes off into orbit, so the Confederate follows him and they have a genuine dogfight over Earth in their spacecrafts. Eventually, Alexander critically damages Achilles' robot and it plunges down to the surface, fortunately right back where we started. With it unable to stand up, it transforms into a dorky-looking tank and charges at Alex, but he stops it with his remaining arm. A saw blade deploys from the crotch and with one pelvic thrust it slices through the cockpit, but Achilles manages to escape. He avoids getting stepped on by climbing onto the Confederate's robot, then makes a run for the arm that Athena cut off earlier. Achilles avoids any gunfire, and while using it for cover he hotwires the projectile fist. It takes off and plows into its own robot's chest, destroying it in a big ball of fire, as I guess it was already damaged. Somehow the jockey escaped that, and the two must now fight on foot with metal poles, which is a bit of a step down for viewers. During their grueling back and forth, Achilles gets the upper hand but convinces Alex that this doesn't have to finish with one of them dying. He makes peace with the man who just killed 9 of his comrades through cheating and gives him the traditional jockey salute. And the movie ends.